is the part of the podcast where we're talking some UFC, and who better to come on than Wade from Wade's Bets. Wade, how you doing today, my man?
Hey, I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me today.
Really looking forward to picking your brain about the UFC. Also, big news, Wade is going to be on the podcast every single week right before there is a pay-per-view card. So pay-per-views, we'll be diving into the UFC stuff, sharing our bets. Of course, we're going to start off with UFC 300, one of the biggest fight cards in recent history, absolutely loaded. We each have 3 bets. Wade, you're the guest. Why don't you lead us off? Who's your first bet, my friend?
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me again. My first bet is I'm going to do a 2-leg here. And I got this on DraftKings earlier in the week for minus 110. I usually like to have pairings at plus money, but I like this one enough to kind of stick with it here. The pairings are Cody Garbrandt and Figueiredo over 1.5 rounds, and I paired that with Bo Nickel and Cody Brundage under 1.5 rounds. I think the Garbrandt Figueiredo fight is going to be. I honestly think it's going to be a war. I think the first round they're going to kind of feel each other out. I know that's not really Garbrandt's style. If you look at all of his previous fights, he has a lot of first round KOs, TKOs. I know and in this fight specifically, he's probably going to want to go in and press and try to get Figs out as fast as possible, because I think he knows if it goes to the distance, he's probably not going to win a decision. Figueiredo just has more power. He can catch Cody pretty easily, I think, if he gets a little wild and loose. So I think he's going to respect Figueiredo just a little bit. And he's not going to go wild right away. And I can just see this going into the second round, and then that's where we might see a KO one way or the other. I know there are some people that are going to play Garbrandt's plus 250 and hope his chin can last. It's just man, he can get caught. He's had some KOs. I don't think he's going to be able to take out Figueiredo, and if he does, it's not going to be early. It'll be later in the round. So I feel like that's a pretty safe bet. Then going to the Nickel Brundage fight. This is just a feeling. I mean, I honestly have another bet with the under 2.5 rounds there, because Nickel just hasn't been tested. He hasn't been hit yet. He hasn't been to the later rounds. So if Brundage can weather any type of storm, whether it's on the ground or on the feet, I think if Nickel tries to stand on the feet and fight with Brundage, he might get caught, and we haven't seen him get caught yet, and we have not seen how he reacts when he's hit. I assume Nickel's gonna try to take him down, because the last fight Nickel wanted to come in and try to show that he could actually punch and box with people. I don't know if this is the guy he wants to do that with. So I assume we're going to see Brundage on the ground within the first minute, and he's going to try to go for a submission or a ground and pound. But I don't know. It's one of those things. I'm pretty sure it's going to end before the first round's over. I think most of Brundage's fights, I think 7 to 10 of his UFC fights, they've all been under 1.5 rounds. So I think just based on history, I think this is probably going to go under 1.5. Even if they get into the second round, it probably end pretty quick in the second round. So yeah, that'll be my first play.
I like it. My first one is I am going Holly Holm plus 360. Harrison, younger, more athletic, but the thing that really stands out to me is she has to drop 30 pounds to make this weight, which is obscene. And if this fight keeps going and Holly is able to keep this off the ground, it's going to be harder and harder and harder for Harrison to win. We saw this in the match she lost. If she can't get her takedowns, her stand-up game is very average, to say the best. I think Holmes is going to be able to stop the takedowns because Harris is going to be a little weak from the weight cut. The longer the fight goes, she is going to be fatigued. This will help Holmes. Also, I think Holmes is just going to be able to work the clinch, and Harrison isn't going to be able to defend it because of how much the weight cut is going to take effect on her. I'm going to take the veteran home here at plus 360. Shock the world like she did against Ronda Rousey about 10 years ago.
It's a risky play, man, but I like it. You got to take risk in this sport, and a lot of underdogs win. So
my best UFC hit ever was that night. I parlayed Holly Holm with Diaz over McGregor. So I had Nate Diaz and Holly Holm parlay. Best night ever betting UFC, but that was many, 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 many moons ago.
Yeah, it's tough.
Next one. Where are you at, my friend?
Yeah, man, this one might have been the toughest one for me because before I really started doing research, I've just been a really big fan of Diego Lopez. Man, he's just come on the scene. I know he's got a big media push behind him right now. I think there's a lot of hype behind him. Just the last two finishes he had a arm bar triangle 2 fights ago, and then the last fight he knocked his opponent out by ground and pound in the first round. So. Man, Diego Lopez really brings some style and some flash, and I think the UFC is trying to position him and build him up to make a run towards a title in that division. But I think they've given him a pretty tough test, and a lot of people in the UFC circles believe that if Sadiq Youssef had not lost his last match, which was a 5-round war against Edson Barbosa, that he would actually be the favorite in this fight. So just off that alone, if he had won his last fight, he would probably be the favorite here. And we're getting him at plus 120, which is what I took Sadiq Youssef money line on ESPN. I think it was 3 days ago. I just think Sadiq's going to be too tough for him. If you look at Sadiq's history, he's never been knocked out. He only loses in decisions. I know Lopez is going to probably try to take him out with punches and try to take him down. And try to submit. But one thing that Sadiq really does well is he's probably one of the strongest and biggest featherweights in that division. It's just tough. I just believe Sadiq controls distance really well. He stays really compact, and he's not afraid to push forward if he has to. He will stand on the feet, and I think Lopez would be smart not to try to take Youssef down because he's just got a really good takedown defense. He's strong, and I don't think he's going to go very well trying to take him down. I can actually see Sadiq trying to wrestle, Lopez down to the ground here. It's just, I think he's going to be too tough. I just think he's going to put too much punishment on, and I have a feeling this is probably going to go the distance. I know a lot of people are probably seeing a knockout or a submission by Lopez, but I don't think he's going to get there. And Sadiq's just too tough. Especially after that last fight, he really impressed me, and I think he's going to be able to press forward. I think he's going to be able to catch Lopez and sting him. I think Lopez might try to get a little wild and crazy with some of his shots, just trying to take Sadiq out of there. And I think Sadiq, being a more cerebral fighter, I mean, he's got a little smarter IQ at this point in time. He's got more UFC experience, and I think he knows if he can win this one, it'll put him on the map for a bigger fight, especially beating a kid that I think the media is really hyping up, and I think that's why his line is such a favorite, is because of the media hype. And I think he's gonna get caught, and I really trust Youssef in this position, especially as a plus money dog.
I like it a lot. My next bet is I am going to Justin Gaethje plus 165 to win by KO. Yes, I know Holloway has never been knocked out, but looking at it, he has had 1,335 significant strikes to his head. That is an absurd amount. Now let's factor in who is he fighting in Justin. 8, he's fought in the UFC 8 times. 6 of the 8 wins have been by KO. In his 29 fights, 20 have been by KO. This is what he does. This is going to be a 5-round fight too. And when Justin has those leg kicks, which is going to neutralize Max's insane footwork, I think that's going to play in the hands for Justin. And we talked about it. We talked about the weight cut last fight in the Holm Harrison match. Now Max has to put on weight to come up, fight in a higher weight class, going against strength he's not accustomed to. I think that's going to play in to Justin. 75.3 significant strikes per minute with a 60% hit rate. And he's landed over 100 significant strikes in 11 fights. To me, this kind of feels like a Tony Ferguson type deal when he fought Gaethje. I'm going to take him plus 165 for the KO.
I don't hate that, man. It's this is a fight that had me torn, man. I went back and forth on both of these guys. I love both of these guys, and every single point you made's true, and it can absolutely happen. You know, Max has been in a lot of wars. He's taken a lot of beatings, so it's due to happen. He hasn't been knocked out yet, but one of these next few fights, he's probably gonna get KO'd. It happens to everybody.
Okay. All right. And he's old too. He's getting up there in age. You know what I mean? He's not no spring chicken anymore. He's not no spring chicken.
For sure. For sure.
Last and final one, my friend. Where are you going?
Yeah, man, I'm actually going to be on the opposite side of you. I'm going to be riding the blessed train on Saturday. So, no, I mean, I went back and forth on this. Beginning of the week, I was probably on Gaethje as I did more research and looked into this and listened to other MMA cappers that I really trust and their breakdown, since this is really all they do every single day, every single week. I'm just going to give Max the benefit of the doubt here. You're right. That's probably my one worry that me and some of my friends talked about is, man, Gaethje's going to run right through him. He's taken too many beatings. He's been in too many wars. Eventually his head's just not going to hold up to the beatings. And you've seen some of his fights. Sometimes Max's face looks horrible. And he still makes it through. So I don't know what. I'm going to give Max the benefit of the doubt here because they are fighting for a BMF belt, and who can say they're the biggest BMF in the last 10 years other than Max, with all the wars he's been in with Volkanovski. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if Justin knocks him out. Justin's got all the power on his side, and he's got pretty good endurance too. They really both have world-class endurance. The one thing I am for sure that's going to happen in this fight is they're not going to be grappling with each other. Justin has a background in wrestling, but he hasn't used it in the UFC. He likes to stand and brawl. They're both going to stand and brawl. I think I'm more trusting Max's just what he's learned in the Volkanovski fights, all the wars he's been in. I think he's going to be able to avoid the really hard hits from Gaethje. I know he's going to take some because it's just what he does. They both give out over 7, I think, significant strikes per minute. But Gaethje actually absorbs more per minute than what Holloway does. And now Holloway doesn't have the power. But I was reading that, you know, on a normal everyday weight, Holloway actually carries around more weight than Gaethje. So I don't know if the weight thing really plays a big difference in me. He is moving up. He hasn't really faced this type of power. But I'm not sure if Gaethje's really faced somebody that has this type of boxing IQ and acumen. I think his footwork and his ability to use both distances, especially switching to southpaw on him. I think he's just going to be able to avoid and stay on the outside. I think he's going to be able to pick his shots. They're both going to throw a lot of shots. I know this is for sure going at least 4 to 5 rounds. And I just think Gaethje, we've seen him get hit. He's been stung almost in every single fight. I believe Max can sting him. And I believe that when they get into the later rounds, even though they both have great cardio, I think Max is going to continue to outpace him in the later rounds. I think I can picture Gaethje getting tired. We've seen him get tired in other fights before. Not that he hasn't pushed through it, but when Justin has been caught, it's been when he's been exhausted later in the rounds. And I'm just trusting Max here more. He's been in this spot numerous times. He's been in these wars. He's been in more wars. If he can just avoid the big blows to the body and to the head from Gaethje, if this goes to a decision, I'm feeling pretty confident Max is going to get his hand raised because I think his volume is going to be higher. And I think he's just going to hit more. I think he's going to connect more. So really it's all about avoiding the knockout like you're projecting. If it happens, it happens. But I think if he can avoid it, I think he wins the decision.
All right. What was the price you got on Max Holloway?
Plus 136 on DraftKings. So I actually got it later in the week. I know he opened up bigger than that. So I think the market's starting to come in on Holloway, but it could shift the other way before the fight starts.
I like it. No, actually, I don't like it, dude, because you're going up against me.
I know. It's tough. I like both fighters. It's if Holloway loses, I'm
To
not
me,
going to
it
feel
kind of
wrong.
feels like, how can I say this? It kind of feels to me that it's either going to be Justin by knockout or Max by decision. That's kind of how it feels to
I
me.
100. I agree. I agree. Now, Justin could absolutely get the decision because if you've seen Max's previous fights, man, sometimes he just looks like a bloody mess. And if Gaethje gets him looking like a bloody mess, you know how these incompetent judges are. They may just side with whoever looks the worst if they have an all-out war. And I can see even if Holloway, if they get to a decision, I believe Holloway is going to look worse. Even if he landed more strikes, I think the damage from Gaethje could look worse on Holloway. So it's tough, man. This is a tough fight.
My last and final one. I am going to the prelims. Give me Jessica Andrea by decision at plus 265. She needs this win. I really think she needs this win. And I think she's going to realize that with Rodriguez, she can't stand. She needs to get this fight to the ground. And Rodriguez isn't one to like close. She likes to box and keep the distance. I think this is going to allow Jessica to pick and choose when to close, be able to get this on the ground. And we all know Rodriguez is not good on her back. Plus, looking at the books, this is minus 135 to go to decisions. Anytime I think a fight's going to go to the decision, I'm going to take the fighter who's a better wrestler, just because we all know the UFC, if you're controlling the ground and on the ground, you're going to win the fight. I don't think Andrea is going to be able to finish Rodriguez, but I do think she's going to be on top of her most of the fight, controlling her back on the ground. So I'm going to take Andrea here. Jessica Andrea is plus 265 by decision.
Yeah, I don't hate it. She just has to close the distance and not get. She has to avoid that big KO shot. If she can close the distance and get inside and grab her and get her to the ground, this is a very good pick.
And also, it's not like Rodriguez is someone who likes to close and push the pace. You know what I mean? Like close the distance, excuse me. She likes to keep her distance and everything.
No, this is a real tough fight. Really, all these fights can go both ways, a majority of them. So this is obviously one of the best cards UFC's ever put together.
Wade, I'd like to thank you for coming on and talking some UFC 130. Why don't you tell everyone where they can find you and how they can join your Discord?
Yeah, you guys can follow me on X at Wade's Bets. In my bio, I've got a link to the Discord. I think it's a link to wap.com, which is actually where our membership's held. We offer a 7-day free trial. If you click on the monthly membership, if you guys want to try us out for 7 free days plus 40% off an entire month, it's $15 for a whole month for a whole month of picks, and that's UFC, baseball right now. We'll have a little NBA once the playoffs start. So now, I mean, you can't really beat it. You can try us out for 7 days for free if you like it. So no, it's always good to join you, man. You've always got good stuff. You always bring winners to the table. So I absolutely love coming on with you, man.
Oh, I always enjoy it when you come on, and I look forward to, again, this is going to be something that's going to be every single week. There is a pay-per-view. Wade will be joining us on the podcast. Make sure to give him a follow, and we'll talk soon, my friend.
Yeah, appreciate it. Hopefully everybody has a great UFC 300. Enjoy it.